What up, everybody? This is another episode of Fire Life. I'm posting it, hair a mess, sweaty, all that good stuff, but I don't care because it's been a minute, and the only way to be consistent is to start messy, all that. But anyway, life update. I've been working on becoming a certified life coach, and to be honest, I'm going to do a whole separate video on this because I think I should address it just based off my own preconceived notions, my own judgments, my own past way of thinking. I pretty much thought life coaches were corny, and that's because I just didn't understand what they did. And now that I've gone through the work, I've taken the courses, I'm wrapping up my program and doing all the continuous ongoing work that needs to occur on my own accord afterwards. Life coaches are not corny, guys. If you are on a path towards personal development, self-growth, you're pivoting, or you're lost, you just don't know what you want to do in life and you're stuck. Or maybe you have the idea in your brain, but your body, your fears, the old narratives and old stories you've told yourself are preventing you from moving forward, or from truly believing in yourself and truly believing even in the failure. Because that was another thing I had to overcome is, and I don't think overcome is the right word, but that was something I had to learn how to live with, is failure. And most people think once you fail, you have failed forever. And that is the furthest from the truth. I had to learn, and I'm still learning, because life is not perfect. My emotions, it can be up and down, especially during certain times of the month. But ultimately, fear is information. It's data. Failure and fears, and overcoming those fears of failure is information. It's data. It's your reference point. It's your new starting point. Instead of always constantly having to start from the starting line, you're now starting at, like, imagine a marathon. And shout out to Nipsey Hussle. The marathon really does continue, but just visualize with me real quick. Imagine you're running a marathon, and what marathons I think are 26 miles. So imagine you're on this 26-mile journey. Some people can just naturally run it without training, without thinking, and that's them. Others, like myself, would need to train, to sign up. Do I have enough money for this? Where am I going to do it? There's so many other decisions that are factors between me today having the idea and me going and doing it. So sometimes I may tell myself, oh, it's so far away, I'll sign up later, and then it approaches, we're here, I haven't trained, I don't have the right shoes, it's in a whole other city, I don't have a car, I don't have enough for a Lyft, Uber, streets are going to be closed, I can't even take a Lyft or an Uber. And anyway, so that's just one scenario that could possibly prevent you from ultimately pursuing something. And that's a mindset that is correlated with self-sabotage. So do I consider myself a failure? Well, I had the idea, an idea that I never would have imagined, right? Me running a marathon. But do I take that scenario as a loss? Or can I take that scenario as data, information? I tried. My first attempt was not so successful. Would I call it a failure? No, because look, I'm still here. There are other marathons I could run. I could be more prepared. If it takes me 6 months, okay, what's another marathon 6 months from now? And what are the realistic steps I can take towards getting to my big goal? So now, rather than starting from this from ideation from in here, I've gotten some of that, those negative thoughts or those limiting thoughts out of my head. Now I can start, instead of from the beginning point, now I'm a step further. So tell me if, I know this is kind of a general example, but I'm trying to give you guys visuals as well, because I think a lot of us feel like we always have to start all over from the starting point. And that's not ultimately true. You're starting further. You're always starting further in your journey because you have more information. Even if it's not the information you wanted or originally thought would come through. But that's where the work comes in, where your intentions, how you speak to yourself, affirmations, getting out some of those limiting beliefs through coaching, through therapy, through journaling, meditation. And if you're someone that has never embarked on this type of journey of self-discovery, or maybe you've reached the max of who you envisioned, and now you're entering a new phase in your life, but you're not quite sure how to pursue it. It literally is that cliche saying, one step at a time, because we can do everything we put our mind to, of course, but we can't do everything all at once. So if you want to do everything, you can, but you have to focus on one thing at a time. I remember I have always had a passion for business. I've always wanted to be in business since I was younger. It was the only thing that stayed in my brain throughout this lifetime, but I never knew how to get into it. I never knew what steps I needed to take. I thought I had to have a college degree to do this. I had all these just false narratives, right? And I remember going to this business course, or it was like a workshop actually, in my neighborhood. And at the time, what was I doing? I think I was promoting events, and I was trying to do transaction coordination on the side. Something like that. It was so long ago, I don't even remember what I said. Maybe I said I was pursuing real estate and event promotion or something like that, or producing. Because I've dabbled in a lot of things in my day. But let's just say I said two completely different things, right? So music, real estate. And the lady got kind of funky and was like, you got to pick one. You can't do both. And I was like, I felt deflated in that moment, because I'm coming in there eager, encouraged, and inspired, and ready to get to work. And how can I do this, And I'll tell you guys what I've learned in just a minute, but it's so important to keep going, even when people don't speak life into you. It's so important to just keep going and push through those naysayers if you are truly passionate or have some sort of instinct or pulling towards something that you desire, especially if it's something that you've been trying to pursue since a young age, because we always return to who we've always been since youth. As much as I have avoided starting a business, or if I've avoided starting a podcast or pursuing things that I've always was interested in, once I did, it just came naturally. But I had to go through those ups and downs to fully understand that. And if I didn't embrace the failure and do it with fear, I would have never known. I would have never gotten to this point of growth, because I'm still growing, I'm still evolving, I'm still learning. But when that lady said that to me, and ultimately was like, I felt shut down. Because imagine you're in one of your most vulnerable states, you're putting yourself out there, you're finally pursuing something you are curious about, you have somewhat of a passion, the light is dim, and you're just looking for someone to help radiate, open the light. When ultimately you have to light your own path, is what I've learned. So I held on to her telling me that for many years, to the point where I was trying to prove her wrong. And I couldn't even tell you what she looked like today. I couldn't tell you what her name was, what race she was, none of it. I think she was white, but still. It's like I let someone pretty much dictate my whole life just because I felt insecure in that moment, and I let her just shut me down. And it was in that moment where I think I probably just went back to my job. I didn't pursue it. And even when I did try, I was like, I'm going to prove her wrong. I'm going to do both at once. So at the end of the day, was she right? Yes. So if I want to pursue, say, DJing, and I want to pursue a career as a personal trainer, if I want to be great at both, I have to focus more of my energy on one of them. And that's what we call an opportunity cost. So no matter what your dreams are, no matter what your goals are, there's going to be a cost to this opportunity, meaning one is going to have to either sit on the sidelines for a while, or maybe the things you were prioritizing are no longer going to be prioritized, such as time out, with friends, or perhaps going to events, or perhaps how much time you invest even in, say, you were pursuing DJing. So all of this to say, we need failure, we need fears, but they do not define who we are as, and they don't define us as limited, they don't define us as weak, they don't define us as a label. It just takes practice. And a lot of these gurus, a lot of these people just say, oh, you just have to get over your fears. But no one really tells you how. No one says, okay, well, let's list out all of your fears. And then I want you to tell me, what is your definition of fear? What is your definition of failure? What is your definition of success? Do you even know it? Have you ever put words behind these narratives? And sometimes a simple pen and paper to write things out will shift your whole perspective. And that's one action step you could take to start this personal development, this personal success journey on your own. And these are some of the steps that I took on this journey. Is I sat with myself. There's a lot of alone time, especially if you are someone that is interested or already pursuing entrepreneurship. Unless you have a partner, but even then, it could feel isolating. It could feel lonely because that office environment is different, but there's something about when you get a taste of entrepreneurship, it's really hard to go back. So you have to work double hard, triple hard to maintain it. And that's another element of business I'll get into, and life that we'll get into, because the same thing goes for personal development. The same thing goes for growth, for maturing, for all of that. It takes time. It takes alone time. And I think one of the best things I could have done early on was pause all of the chaos, all of the partying, and removing one of my vices for an extended period of time, and that was drinking. Truly. I mean, not drinking Trulies, because those weren't out back then. But ultimately, I remember I was like, the only way this was before I knew I was going to quit my job, or even when I quit my job, I knew about a year and a half before it happened that 2018 was going to be my year. I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who it's going to involve or who it's not going to involve other than me. And if I don't get myself out of this hole, I'm going to be stuck here for another 10 years. And I was miserable. I was overweight. I was all of the things. I was lost. I was confused. So I started changing my habits. Oh, a great book I highly suggest. If you're a reader or audio reader, go on YouTube if you can't afford it, but Atomic Habits. And it's one of those books I tell people to read. I suggest to people to read, but I tell people that it's one of those books that you need to be ready for, and it has to find you. And then once it does, it's one of those books you may need to reread once a year or twice a year to just refresh and make sure you're on track. And getting clear about what it is you want to do in life, and who it is you want to be, and what you want to pursue. Because If you don't stop to take control of your life, life is going to control you. If you don't stop to control your narrative, others are going to control your narrative. It's a vicious cycle, and our past is going to dictate our future, which is okay, but how much of that past do you want to dictate your future? Are we always going to carry around this negative baggage that, limits us and prevents us from being like the Kool-Aid man and breaking through the wall? Or are we going to take those itty bitty steps like I am right now, walking and talking towards our bigger goals, our bigger goal, our bigger vision? And it doesn't have to be something tangible. It could be a feeling. I just want to feel more joy. I just want to have more fun. All right, again, pen and paper, phone, a notebook app. What does that look like? Let's define it. Let's get clear about it. I was just listening to a podcast yesterday, with this top producing realtor talking about how he wrote out 100 goals. And I'm over here limiting myself to writing like 5 goals, 10 goals. And I'm like, wait a minute. When have I ever sat down and wrote down 100 goals? Do I even have 100 goals? I'm pretty sure I do, but I didn't even realize I was limiting myself even in my goals. And that blew my mind, because I was just like, what else am I limiting myself on? Because I already thought I had this unlimited way of thinking until I heard that. And it's just those little shifts, those little mindset tricks that ultimately become your lifestyle, ultimately become your day of life, your way of life, and how you will eventually, without even having to say or do anything, how you impact others, how you influence others. And again, you can't control other people's opinions of you, thoughts of you, because you could do all the quote unquote right things. But there will always be someone with their own insecurities projecting on you, telling you, why are you doing that? That's wrong. It's not the right time. It's not the right time. But it's like, they're not you. Even the people you love the most, they're not you. You are you. I know it's cliche, it's whatever you want to call it, corny, much like how I thought life coaches were corny. Now I understand why I've always been so quiet and observant and curious about people's lives, is because this is the path that I've always been wanting to be on. And I didn't even know it until I pursued it. Until it all made sense. And this is for the phase in my life now. I'm not saying I'll be a life coach even a year from now, 10 years from now. But it's the fact that I explored it. Now I could see all the opportunities that could come from this. I can be a better speaker on my YouTube channel, on my podcast. I can be a better friend, better family member, better sister, daughter, niece, all of those things, auntie. And I love being an auntie. So sometimes we just need the education. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to be stuck or, fully committed to this one thing, because you could be missing out on so many other opportunities. I'm on a baseball field right now. So imagine your dream was to pursue baseball, which I've had big dreams of being a professional athlete. This was before women's sports really took off. This is like the early mid-90s, early 2000s. And the WNBA had just come out. There's still no baseball for women, but that I'm aware of. But I did everything. I was like, sports, all of that. Until my, I think, third year of college. I went to City College, so you get 2 years max as an athlete. Then after that, they assume you've moved on to a higher level of education or athletics. So you can only play 2 years max at a community college. So I did my 2 years, and my head coach made me the assistant coach. And that was like almost 2 decades ago. 2000, 2 decades ago. And I'm at the field where all of this went down. Wow, I'm having a moment right now. But I remember coaching, and something in me, when my players, I would train with them at practice and I would make them do the things on their own, because that's what coaching is. It's like it's in you, and we're just going to do work to get it out of you, for you to recognize it, for you to lead the way and find that power within you. So I was doing this 2 decades ago, not realizing this would be the path that I was destined for at this point in life. But I was so focused on, how can I be a professional athlete? How can I play sports? I. And it's okay to be selfish like that. I'm not saying don't be selfish. Have your dreams. Other people, if that's their dream, it happens. For me, it just wasn't in the cards. But if I hadn't have had that coaching experience back then, I never would have understood what this journey means today. Because I remember my players struggling. I remember my players being uncoordinated. And I remember my players just having a lot of self-doubt. And I recognized, even at such a young age, I had to be 19, 20, 21. I'm about to be 40 next year. I'm 39 now. But you can imagine, at such a young age, I recognized, like, oh, I could tell them how to put their feet. I could tell them how to hold the bat. I could tell them how or when to swing. But that's not going to carry on beyond this at bat. It's not going to carry on off the field. This is before I ever heard the term speak life into them, but I had to speak life into them. I had to say, hey, what are you thinking? What do you believe? What do you think of yourself? How do you feel right now in this moment? I was doing all this stuff back then. It's nuts that I am just now coming full circle after experiencing 20 additional years of life to get to this point. But I remember, like, you telling them, encouraging them constantly, and not realizing that some people have never heard encouragement before. That's another thing. You're probably not able to move forward because no one has ever told you good job. That's why I love Larry June's music. He was like, no one ever told me good job, so I started telling myself good job. Go listen to Larry June's music, some of his mixtapes. He says, good job, Larry. It's his tagline. So you can imagine where I'm dealing with, and I'm also coaching like a high school team. So you can imagine some of these girls had never heard anyone tell them good job. That's wild to me, because I'm very fortunate to have come from a very loving, encouraging household. And I always heard that. And that spilled into my life and my own natural self-belief that I already had for myself. So you can imagine starting to work with people that have never heard that, and having to, my mission wasn't to convince them, because you have to be able to, and willing and ready to receive that. It was more so to get them used to hearing that, get them in the practice of hearing, good job, you got this, you can do this, I know you can do this, let's just fix a couple of mechanics, and then boom, out the gate. I remember when one of my teammates, one of my players, hit her first home run in a collegiate game, and I was always the most powerful hitter, but she ended up being better than me. That's the point, right? So that moment sticks in my brain, and and you wonder, like, why is this happening? Or maybe you don't even think of it as a moment that's going to stay with you or come back in your memory 20 years later. But I think about that moment and how great it made me feel. I can only imagine how great it made her feel. And I just remember her jumping, and like we're all hugging and high-fiving. And I reference that moment now because I'm just like, oh, it was in me this entire time. I just had to dig deep and find it. And ultimately, that's what led me to life coaching. I've been working with my coach we're going on 3 years now. And the original goals I thought were my goals ended up not being my goals in relation to a certain career. Of course, the financial goals still stand, but now they're directed in a whole nother direction. Had I waited, had I not sought the help, that was another thing I'll talk about in a separate video. Had I not asked for help, I would still be in the same situation I was 3 years ago. Stuck, miserable. Same situation I was in 6-7 years ago when I was thinking about quitting my job. Seasons. Life is not linear. And I recognize that. And that's the work I've been putting in to understand and live with my fears, live with my failures as information, as data, and no longer as me constantly, all right, I failed, let me go back, let me start over. No, because now I was going to walk to home plate. No, I failed, so now I get to start from first base. All right, I don't know if anyone here plays baseball, but sometimes you take a lead off the base, then you got to go back. But just because you couldn't advance doesn't mean you have to start over from home plate. You're still at first base. And sometimes you got so much momentum, you end up on second, and then you realize, oh, I could keep going. I have the capacity. I'm taking care of myself. The path is clear. I'm actually walking the bases right now. And I'm walking to third base, because then you can advance your career, because now your endurance is built. Your understanding of life has gotten better. And you're getting closer to your goals and your dreams. Just like that. And now you're much closer to home plate than you were just a few moments ago. And of course that timeline is accelerated, but ultimately what I'm saying is, like, you have to take the at-bat forward with the fears, with the failures, because that will ultimately lead you to the confidence and eventually the courage to take those steps. It's a process. It takes time. Accept that. You'll be good to go, because I'll tell you, the opportunities are endless. And that is a mindset I did not have before. To see and to think, like, why haven't I pursued trying to make $1 million? Even if I don't reach it, at least I'm on the trajectory towards it. And then I have to ask myself, well, why $1 million? What is it about $1 million that represents me or represents this part of my life? And is it $1 million through coaching? Is it $1 million through vlogging? Is it $1 million through workshops, sponsorships? What is it? So then that's how the goal becomes a plan. And then you have the plan, then you take action. Once you take action, you're home, baby. Look at that. I cleaned the plate for you guys and all. Then you've achieved your goal. Sit in that. Revel in that. Enjoy it. Appreciate it. Be grateful for it. And don't wait to show gratitude. Be grateful every day. If you feel like your life is off track, start with gratitude. But this was fun. I wasn't planning on talking for 30 minutes, but I did. Here we are. Let me know if you guys like these home plate baseball field talks. We could call it something cute later. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to take action and do this. Messy. Look at my hair. I need to take a shower. And it's hot outside. Go outside, enjoy the weather if you have good weather. Stretch, breathe, deep breaths, and take time to get to know yourself each and every day. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. Hit that subscribe button or follow button, depending on where you're watching it. My name is Lily, Lils, Faya, whatever you want to call me. I have dozens of nicknames, but I appreciate you all. So until the next episode, if and when I feel like dropping one. But stay tuned. More base talks, field talks. Again, we'll think of a cute name later. On another day. I appreciate you. Peace. Fearless individuality yields abundant healing. Faya Life out. Yay.